This conference will
again
now be recorded.
Ask everyone to put his camera and his sound mic in mute. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ramadan Kareem. Welcome everyone to our session. We are talking today about recruitment in the hard times and what are the challenges and opportunities. This session comes to you from HR Leaders Kuwait. We are trying to connect people together, especially in these hard times. We all share together our experience, lessons learned, and so on, so that we can all develop ourselves and develop our organizations as well. Our guests for today are Mr. Osama Al-Qaddoumi. Mr. Osama has 34 years professional experience in different areas: international business consulting, recruitment, banking and finance, marketing and corporate communication, project management, and establishing many companies in different areas. So welcome, Mr. Osama. Our pleasure to have you today with us. We have our dearest colleague also, Mr. Muhammad Debawi. Debawi is one of our dearest colleagues in HR Leaders, and he has a master's in human resource management. He focused on building HR practice in many organizations, and he has supported many organizations building and restructuring functions and improve their services and strategic alignment. He is the managing director of ME Career for HR Consulting and Recruitment since December 2007. And also we have our dearest colleague, Muhammad Abu Hamar. He's an HR advisor and he has 10 years of experience in different industries in HR in different sectors. He's holding HRP certificate and SPHRI. Okay, so we are starting the session now. So hopefully, inshallah, you will enjoy the session. So the first question to Mr. Osama Qaddoumi, I'll ask him about how was the recruitment process affected by the COVID-19 crisis? How this affected the recruitment process or the recruitment in general? Mr. Osama Qaddoumi. Not sure if Mr. Osama Qaddoumi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Osama.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As you all know, Corona has affected all sectors in different degrees. And out of the companies that were affected because of the losses that incurred on the companies for shutting down all this period, mostly it's going to be affected by the staff. And we already seen a lot of companies like Shaya or others who already fired a large number of their staff. Just to give you an idea, I have 2 jobs announcements on the social media groups, and I used to place around 10 to 15 jobs per day on average, and now it went down to 2 per average. So it went down by at least 90%. On the other side, we are seeing more of temporary jobs, which is not was showing in the past than permanent jobs. But we will have to wait and see. A lot of remote, of course, jobs than physical because of the situation. Just to give you an idea about what's being asked for now by going back for the last 2 weeks. Surprisingly, number 1 was the motorcycle delivery drivers, marketing people, social media, accountants still in demand. construction, medical, AC and car maintenance, oil and gas, supermarket staff in general. Call centers is still in high demand and increased because most businesses now is done by orders and delivery and call centers, and IT in general. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Osama. Mr. Mohammed Dibawi, what do you think, from your point of view, how the market was affected by the COVID-19 crisis?
Good evening, fellow HR leaders, Dr. Rabia, and my dear guests. As Mr. Osama said, the COVID-19 pandemic has a significant impact on recruitment. The lockdown and isolation policies meant that many businesses have been forced to shut or to downsize. There has been mass layoffs of significant reduction in working hours across industries like retail and hospitality. As a result, many organizations have been put their recruitment on hold until the crisis ended. For those industries that still recruiting, social distancing makes the task more difficult actually. Much of it has been done online rather than face-to-face. There are fewer candidates due to the virus either through sickness or fear of getting sick. And for industries like healthcare, these are added challenge due to the urgency as companies try to ramp up staff member in preparation of high levels of outbreak. In recruitment terms, the most affected by the crisis sector are probably the recruitment agencies themselves, particularly those targeted the most affected industries, because agencies tend to be very costly comparing to the available technical solutions. It may be a significant amount of time before companies start to outsource the process again, and it depends from the country conditions. And if we're talking about Kuwait, I believe no one easily can predict the time that the work will return back as before or gradually before getting the information from the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Kuwait as well.
Okay. Sir Muhammad Abu Hamar, what do you think, in your opinion, how things were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
So good evening, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Rabia, for this invitation. I would like to highlight also, as mentioned by our colleagues, Mr. Osama and Dibawi, the hiring process has been almost freeze all over all companies except the key positions that are handling the main responsibility inside the organization, or even some of the sectors that it's ongoing and this is the peak of their operation. For example, the FMCG, online shopping, the medical care, those are the fields that on the top, or those the peak season for them is right now. So currently they are ongoing hiring processes for them, and they still hiring people in this time. For ourselves, for example, we consider all the hiring as a freeze, except and re-evaluated all the positions, and we started to select and maintain only the requirement and the vacancies that really needed and really affecting the business and the ongoing operation. So basically, the COVID-19 has huge impact on the recruitment process, and we don't know the uncertainty about when it's going to end, when we're going to complete the process, when we're going to continue is the main issue or main things to think about in a resilience way, and how to pass this period.
Okay, thanks. Let me ask Mr. Dibawi, what are the main challenges that companies or organizations facing these days regarding the recruitment process? What are the main challenges from your expertise and from working in the field itself?
In terms of recruitment process, Doctor, most of the companies, they are holding the recruitment process for the time being due the COVID-19 pandemic. And also the lockdown areas that prevent a lot of people from hiring. We have some of the clients that they are looking to hire from the local market, but unfortunately we won't be able to supply them since most of the labor categories, they are stuck in lockdown areas like Klib Shiyukh and Mahbula area. So it's quite difficult. Also, a lot of organizations, they have been shut down their business due to the instruction from the governments, which decrease and stop all the recruitment activities for them. So I believe for those affected badly industries, they are totally stopped in the recruitment. On the other side, some of organization and business, they got increase in the recruitment process, such delivery companies, electronic companies that they are doing e-commerce, FMCG, as well as the food companies as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Muhammad Abu Hamar, what do you think are the challenges that companies are facing? I will ask Mr. Gurris to close the video camera.
So the challenges that we are facing currently is how we can manage the ongoing or current vacancies that we have, and already the candidate under mobilization or under onboarding process. So, for example, we have some of the people who has the visa, has everything done for them, and after the lockdown of the country, we are unable to bring them on board to Kuwait. So we are searching at all those candidates on hold till further notice, till we have an answer and clarity about the process and next process, what we're gonna do about the visa. Is it gonna be extended, or we will have another solution to redo it from the beginning? We have no answer for that, especially when we don't have an answer from the government up to now. But the alternative way for now is to find the right candidate from the local market, which is a little bit challenging also, because it's like tight market. Because, for example, I'm involved in the recruitment from all over the world, from US, UK, North Africa, India, Egypt, in different locations. But right now it's all locked. So the only alternative for us is to search from the local market, which is having a little effect on the salary scale itself. Some of them is like having a high expectation rather than to bring someone from overseas. So the challenges is huge right now, but we need to be resilient enough to have the resources from internal, from the local market. In terms of what other solution that we can do in terms of the processes, the recruitment processes, we are thinking about the RPO, like recruitment process outsourcing. This is one of the options that will allow us to have a flexibility and to focus on what we need to do internally and to sort things out.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Osama, what industries are recruiting right now from your expertise? So, yes, we believe that it's hard for everyone, but still some industries are still recruiting. What industries you think are recruiting right now?
As I mentioned earlier, probably the contracting, anything related to medical, whether it's doctor, nurses, or medical equipment staff and assistants, the maintenance, whether it's for the ACs or the cars. Oil and gas is always going to be required because of situation with the Kuwait oil. Supermarkets, call centers, and mainly IT staff, because we're going to depend a lot on the IT and digital technology. I had a similar case as Muhammad, where I was hiring for some company in Bahrain, and we were in the final thing where they issued visa, and the last thing was to pass the medical and get the airplane tickets. And now, because of what happened, everything is freezed, and we don't know when it's gonna come back or when it's gonna be they're gonna send the tickets to join. So it's gonna be like my colleagues. I would like to add to my colleagues. It's gonna be really challenging in the future for the companies to find the right staff, because as we mentioned, a lot of them will be laid off, and a lot of them maybe will leave the country. So if we don't have to find it locally, we have to go outside again. Thank you.
Thank you. I want also to check, are the jobs that people are looking are looking for permanent jobs or part-time jobs, or are they also looking for people to work remotely, or do you want people to work physically? From the market now and the conditions, what type of jobs or what type of employment, let me say temporary versus permanent, remotely versus physical, are people looking for right now? Mr. Muhammad?
So as a matter of fact, and nowadays a lot of the companies reduce their force and start to get into redundancy processes. So people right now, especially in the local market, is looking to find very urgently to find another job full time. So this kind of candidate that they are seeking still to have a full-time employment with some of the with an employer, but for the next future, this is gonna change a little bit. So a lot of people is having the insight to work as a freelancer or working remotely, or start to have the flexibility more about the being inside an office and the work for a certain employer or something. So basically, the mentality of the candidates right now, some of them is still thinking with the same mentality that I need to be full employed, and some of them, no, I need to find alternative. I need to find another way of income. So I need to be flexible more with the freelancing. But what kind of service that they can provide? So for example, the IT, yeah, they can provide some of the services online. The graphic designing, or they are already starting to contract to this website that can provide freelancing services to the people. But for clerical job or admin job, it's so hard and so difficult. So basically, it depends on the candidate mentality right now.
Yeah, thank you. I'd ask Mr. Gorlis, can you please put off your webcam? Okay, Mr. Dibawi, again, regarding this point, how do you see people are looking, or the recruiters are looking right now, looking for part-time jobs versus permanent jobs, remotely versus physical people working in the place? What's the percentages, or where the concentration is?
Okay, Doctor, I believe we will take it from the two-side prospects. The prospects of the candidate themselves, they actually looking for a permanent work and something like to guarantee their income. However, they would be able to consider some of like part-time freelancing job if they are allowed to do this in Kuwait for the time being. On the other of the employer side, we have like the segment of the employers that they are relying a lot of the daily wages stuff, especially in contracting, where they are facing a huge problem in getting those caliber due the surrender of all illegal employees in Kuwait. As the Ministry of Interior, they announced this kind of offer to surrender themselves during the month of April. So a lot of people, they surrender in order to avoid the penalty and to be able to be back to Kuwait and not being blacklisted, where the challenge come to contracting company to find the daily wages calibers that they can support on their projects. For the other stuff, to work as a part-time or a full-time, the curfew itself impacted this opportunity, since most of the companies, they are not operating due to the curfew and they're shutting down their business. So there is a lot of people, they are jobless, they cannot find an opportunity. And those who can find an opportunity, where I can say those that are talented people, that they can provide a freelancing job or like a part-time job, as Muhammad Abu Hammer said, the graphic designer, people in developing and software, some of marketing stuff that they can do some of marketing activities and supporting companies through the freelancing part.
Thank you, Mr. Dibawi. Mr. Osama, what do you think? Are people still hiring people to work remotely or physically or part-time, full-time?
I think we are seeing more of part-time hiring than before, definitely. And interesting thing that we have the new online, which was mainly
the sound is not
before
clear,
only on the IT side, but now all of a sudden
Mr. Osama, can you repeat, please? The sound is not going very clearly. Mr. Osama?
The whole world business realized that they can do the business from sitting at home. Of course, certain department or the majority of the department for the step they don't get stuck. So I think we're gonna see a lot of online or remote jobs coming up in the.
Mr. Osama, can you repeat, please, because the sound was not very clear when you're talking. There was some distraction in sound. So can you repeat, please?
Okay, what I just said that we're gonna see more. We already seen more temporary jobs than before. That's noticeable. And the second thing noticeable, that the World Business Organization realized that they can do most of the work remotely or from home, and almost with same efficiency. And from the staff side, they love it because they don't have to dress up, they don't have to drive and get frustrated in the traffic jams, and they can stay around their children and wives and loved ones. So while they do the business, whatever 8 or 9 hours that they have to put. So I believe we're going to see a lot of online or remote business done in the future as a standard practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. I want also to ask about the plans for hiring. So in spite of what's going on and this hard time and so on, so are companies planning for hiring and still having optimistic about planning and hiring in the near future, or everything is stopped completely, even no plans for hiring? So are there some plans for hiring, or they stopped everything completely until everything will finish? Mr. Dibawi?
Yes, doctor, the plan is there, but it has been postponed until this issue get clear more. As per the survey we conducting recently, most of the organization that they are postponing their hiring plan up to 3 months. And I believe the reason of 3 months because they don't know yet when this crisis will be ended and they can resume back as normal as before. So majority of them, they didn't stop the planning of the recruitment, but they postponed the planning of the recruitment, even the deployment of already the offer staff, and who didn't get the chance to join their work yet, since they are stuck out of the country due to the stopping of the flight or like issuing the visas. But I believe in terms of the planning, it's postponed, and it will be more clear for organization after resuming back to work. So they will need to revisit the recruitment plan according to the current situation at that time, then they will take it from there.
So what I mean is that, are they waiting till things are over and then they start reviewing and planning, or they are planning from now and they will just execute whenever things are over?
Majority of organizations, they are not planning for recruitment right now because the plan is connected with the time and they cannot predict the time. So there is no point of planning so far. They have already their like a recruitment plan or workforce planning that started on the beginning of 2020, but it hasn't been executed yet. So what they did, they just postponed the plan until the things got clear. The plan is already there, but the execution, it's not confirmed yet.
Okay. So Muhammad, what do you think? How things are going? Are they waiting, or do you just postponing the plan till things are over?
So it depends on each operation. For example, some of the operation is still ongoing. So either the companies is thinking about third-party option, third party to provide those services, starting from the recruitment itself process, so they can outsource it with the agency, for example, or even like any like the IT stuff, they can outsource it for the current situation rather than bringing a new team in the company. And there is some position is ongoing based on the local market. So the companies is rely on the local market and try to find alternative way and being resilient enough to keep the operation ongoing, because at the end the business will keep doing well with a certain extent and certain limits. For some of the other companies, they totally freeze the plan. The 2020 plan is no more exist, and they're gonna start to have a new plan soon, or they hold it, or they maybe will not execute any further hiring. But the third party is one of the options currently with the company, and the critical ongoing business which need some of the vacancies, or which need some of the people to be exist in the place itself.
Thank you. Mr. Osama, how do you see things? Are they waiting, or they are planning and just going?
Like my two colleagues have mentioned, depends on the industry actually, except for the industry that I mentioned earlier, which are recruiting now because their business are booming. Most of them are freezing their existing 2020 hiring plans, and they are waiting to see when they're gonna resume back to business, and they're gonna do a new staff count, because some staff might be laid off, some staff is stuck outside, they can't bring back or decided not to come back. So they need to see where the present situation, and the most important, what are the potential and opportunity in the future. Because if there isn't a gap for expansion, they're not gonna hire and probably settle with the present human resources that they have. And the most important thing is what is the company financial position, because now they have to pay rents for their shops or offices, and they have to pay salaries for the month. Some of them, okay, they reduced or reached to a certain agreement or asked the staff to take certain leave balances. But if the company is financially not stable, then they probably decide to close or automatically gonna bankrupt or go out of business. So I think it's too early now to determine, you know, how it's gonna trend. Gonna be depends mainly on how long it's gonna stay. The shorter the companies go back to business, the higher chance of getting expansion and more staff hiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. Okay, my next question also be for you, Mr. Osama, regarding that we used to have like assessments for the people and selection criteria for people who come and work before hiring. So are still companies doing that, or how they ensure the quality of people being hired this time, or just hire the whoever is available right now and so on?
No, I think they're still wanted the same specifications. They're gonna be more strict in the future because there is more requirements upgraded, like they have to be IT literate and they have to be able to work remotely. It's gonna be really challenging in the future to hire the right staff for companies. I think we should find new ways and avenue to recruit and select staff. And maybe we'll see a lot of online interviews than the actual physical ones that we used to do now. So there'll be a real challenge for the company to get and for the employment company to satisfy such needs. Thank you.
Thank you. But also I'm talking about right now. What do you think? Are there some criteria right now for selection and hiring, or they just, because there is not enough people available, so they just hire whoever is available?
It depends mainly on the position. If it's a motorcycle delivery, they not gonna be picky, and as long as they have a license to drive that motorcycle and can read GPS, I think that's enough for them. When we get to higher jobs and more managerial jobs, criteria will be always there, and selection is gonna be, and screening and filtering and all that. And even the criteria, it's gonna increase because of the 2 points that I have mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Dibay, what do you think?
Well, Doctor, I believe one of the lessons learned of the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of recruitments for the company, that it will increase the focusing more on the qualitative candidates that will save a lot of return of investment and do a lot of return of investment for the organization. Since the lesson we are facing right now, most of the organization, they are confused who to terminate or to lay off now. So the first direction goes with the lower performance, for example. So it's one of the lessons that instead to prevent getting lower performance candidates, so we need to focus more on the quality and be very careful and picky on the quality of the recruitment that we will go through on the future. Even if the companies they are recruiting right now for like certain positions that it requires more focusing on the quality, I believe they are going to spend more time to make sure that they are hiring the right candidates on this position. Unlike the positions that, like for the labor position, or as Mr. Osama said, like we need a delivery or motorcycle drivers or a car driver, and all these things, which doesn't require a high quality of caliber, so they can hire as much as they can as long as they are complying with the regulation and governmental regulation at that time.
Thank you. What do you think, Mr. Abu Hamar?
So I will get back 12 years ago when the ERP system a little bit taking place into the corporate and into the companies. So at this stage, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people has been replaced with the technology of ERP systems. So for example, if there is a team of finance or accounting as of 5, they reduce to be 2, and the system is operating and doing the rest of the job or main processes of the accounting cycle. So this is 12 years back, and at that time, people were thinking to cope up with this systems, with this kind of systems. For sure, to be realistic, when this pandemic is over, the whole world gonna be changed. So as a matter, that's gonna be reflected on the candidate and the candidate quality, who are be able to co-op and who gonna have the skills, the right skills and the right competencies to be able to compete with the current candidate or the whoever is having higher skills. So basically, the quality of the candidate is going to be different in the near future. And as a matter of fact, a lot of methodology or a lot of tools is right now is going to be used. For example, virtual assessment center or virtual assessment interviewing assessment tools. There is the IA now, the artificial intelligence is taking place as an assessors, for example. So from a video, they are taking the gesture, body language, they are reading the body language and getting a result or assessing the candidate. So this kind of tools it's going to be used in the near future. So basically, the quality of the candidate needs to be reassessed, and we need as a companies to focus and the candidate side need to focus what competencies need to be to be in the candidate in the near future in order to continue the work and to be able to provide a good quality and the good values to the organization.
Thank you. And I think one of the most lessons learned now is about the quality of people and the quality of leaders. This made a big difference for people who are now working properly and they could have alternative plans and they have some business continuity, okay, versus people who are affected and couldn't really deliver right now because of the quality of people. So I think one of the main things that we have learned from this it's about the quality of people you hire in different positions, especially in the right. So that's I think this is good news for the recruitment people. So even with whatever going on now, how do you see the opportunities right now and in the future, okay, for the recruitment? Okay, so I'll ask Mr. Debawi about this. How do you see the opportunities right now and also in the future?
Well, I believe there is a good opportunity for the recruitments for several industries, and even for the future, I believe there will be a good opportunity. But the thing is, it's going to be available. It's going to be good opportunities for qualified candidates. Also, we need to consider it's going to be opportunity for the local candidates, not the overseas, until I believe period of time not less than 6 to 8 months. This is the minimum, because the point is it has been raised question by I believe Deepak here about how soon we can expect the government to start issuing the visas of the situation. I believe the concern is not about the government issuing the visa. We should be more concerned about when the airport will open in Kuwait, and when the airport of the countries that we are deploying from will open and operating. It's not only about the opening the airports, it's about the Kuwait regulations and policies and procedures that will be applied from deploying people from overseas, since there will be a new regulations and rules. by the MOH. For example, they might need a PCR test. And what's the process in order to do this? How the cost will be done. So I believe there is a lot of coordination between the foreign affairs, between the embassies, between the medical institution of the countries that we're gonna deploy from in order to plan and to organize and to process all these kind of procedures, which I believe it will take from 6 to 8 months in my point of view. So until then, I believe we're gonna focus more on the local hiring, and we will focus on the qualitative hiring, not just to get someone in place, since most of the organization, they lay off a lot of people nowadays. As per some statistics from only 50 companies so far, around 700 people, they have been laid off from their organizations. So we are talking about a month and a half. We haven't, or let's say like 2 months, it's March and April. And let's consider that the crisis took place by mid of March when the curfew took place on the Kuwait market. So we're talking about a month and a half, April and half of March. So far only 700 people has been laid off. So I believe it's recruitment is going to be there, but it's going to be qualitative and it's going to be from the local market, not overseas.
Thank you. What do you think, Mr. Osama? What are the opportunities for recruitment people, either agencies or at organizations? What are the opportunities for now and the opportunities for the future as well?
I agree with Mr. Muhammad, what he said. There is opportunity. It's not going to be immediate. We're talking about the next 2 years. So the first probably 6 months or a year, we're not going to see a lot of immediate opportunities. But the surprise thing is the need for the staff. I can share with you 3 surveys findings or the conclusion of 3 surveys done in Kuwait and internationally. And we're going to find new areas that coming up newly, and we need to concentrate on that. For example, the e-commerce. All of a sudden, the whole world companies realize that they need to have a e-commerce site. Now, for the big ones, of course, they have already sites because they are very expensive. But I'm talking about the small and medium-sized company. They need to establish or use a common e-commerce platform like Oracle or Microsoft. We're gonna see a lot of, I'm sure, or some of you have heard it, RPA, which stands for Robotic Processing Automation. And this is a new thing that gonna do most of the jobs, especially the routine jobs. They're gonna do it more efficiency, 7 days a week, 360 days a year. They don't need light, they don't need to eat, sleep. And this will lay off more people, unfortunately, because it's gonna do a lot of the jobs and more efficiency. But on the other side, another jobs will be created, which I'm gonna come to. The other thing that coming up strongly is the artificial intelligence, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And machines or robots are taking over humans, and they're asking you certain questions. And fortunately, they don't do the same mistake twice like humans. So we're gonna see, we already seen them in banking, we already seen them in a lot of the orders. So we need to also recruit a lot of people who are familiar with artificial intelligence. IT in general, it's one of the hot areas, a lot of demands for that, especially the areas of coding, data analysis, how to collect data and how to analyze such data. And to sum it up, cybersecurity is very important, because once we use more on the networks and it's going to be threatened by hackers and other threats. So cybersecurity is very important. Also the design and programming of robots, of course. We're gonna see more of alternative and renewable energy like the sun and the wind and all of that. We're going to see a lot of dependence on the blockchain supply, the logistics, the supplier. And now every company is revisiting their supplier network because they either proved themselves or they didn't. And they need to not to depend on one supplier, but more than one supplier in a crisis like this. Medical related field proved to be very active and needed in such crises. And always, whether it's peace or war, the food industry. So I think these areas is the ones we need to concentrate on, and we're going to see more demand in such areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. Actually, I've been reading a lot of about this stuff, about the RPAs, the artificial intelligence, and all the new technologies, and the machines will replace people. I've been reading about this, and I was not really believing in this, and I said this will take some more time, especially in this part of the world, because we like humans, we like to deal with humans and so on. But actually, I started to change my mind with all this happening all around us, and everyone is going online and everything. So actually, you never know what's the good and what's the bad. But actually, things definitely will not go back to normal after this will go over. The world is changing very rapidly, and this is something very important that all of us has to be taken care of, that how to develop the right skills and competencies to match these requirements, and how to be prepared for the future, either from the organization side or from the people side. So I will ask Mr. Mohammed Hamar about his opinion about this, and then we'll go to look from the employee's perspective as well, how things, will be the opportunities. So let's, Mr. Muhammad Abu Hamar, start first about telling us about what opportunities you see for the organizations right now and the future, and then we'll go for also tell us about for employees, how this will benefit the employees.
So basically, the opportunities in the future to be more flexible with the employees, to have more remote working for the employees, and we tried it. We are doing that, and the people is happy about that. Yes, that at the beginning, like for the last month, it's a little bit confusing when exactly they need to communicate. There is a lack of communication, but right now we are working remotely, and it's very effective, especially when there is sometimes like going to the office, getting back from the office is eliminated. So the opportunity of being flexible with the remote working remotely is kind of thing that make the purpose of working from home and make the people really engaged more with the technology. So basically, the technology right now and the artificial intelligence is going to take part of the organization, and the third-party contracts is going to take part of the organization, and this is going to change a lot from the organization culture. So the opportunity is to be flexible. The opportunity is to be objectively and to have a certain objective and achieve it. And it needs dedicated people. It needs a commitment to reach these goals, to reach those objectives. So basically, after we try the working remotely, is something, yes, it's an plus. It's a plus for the organization, but it needs to be controlled and managed by the employee themselves.
Thank you, Muhammad. Mr. Dibawi, what do you think? What could be the opportunities for the employees, from the employees' point of view? What the future can bring opportunities for the people?
Well, for the people, I believe they need to consider the new era that took place during this coronavirus, and definitely organization requirements will be changed. They need to focus more, especially for those office workers. They need to know how to work on technology and how to work remotely in case of such incident repeated or if it's required anytime. So a lot of development and investment on themselves as well as their organization, they need to spend on them for the same as well. More opportunities, well, it's not clear again now because there is no current opportunity on the market until we finalize and get over this crisis. So from my point of view, they need to work on themselves and to get advantage of this duration in investing and developing themselves to be ready for the next stage of the impacts of the virus.
Mr. Osama, what do you think?
Excuse me, I didn't hear the last part.
Regarding for the employees themselves, what opportunities this crisis can bring to them for in the future? Well, do you think there will be more opportunities for the employees from their point of view? Their expectations are different. They'll have more opportunities in the future after this crisis is over. We were talking about people working remotely, for example. This was not something that organization will allow before. Now with this pandemic, many people are working remotely. So this is one of the opportunities, for example, that can employees looking for. They need more flexibility or need to work remotely and so on. So what could be other things that could be opportunities for the employees looking for in the future from the employee's point of view, not from the organization point of view? Osama, did you hear me? Okay, one of the questions that I was asking also, will ask Mr. Muhammad Abu Hamar about it. It's regarding the company image or the brand. Do you think with all this, what's going on, still companies are trying to keep the image and brand? What they care? Do they take care of this, or they don't just care? Or what can they do to keep their image?
So what I noticed recently, like some of the companies try to maintain that by using the social media and try to keep engaged with their customer, keep engaged with the employee, with the candidate, and everyone. By, for example, Shaya CEO, he came across with a video. He was very transparent. He mentioned that 90%, 95% of the operation going to be shut down since last month, and that will be affecting the employee by short-term decisions, which is going to be so tough and so hard. So transparency nowadays, especially from the leaders of the company, is needed. And it's not about the image. It's not about. It's about more the business continuity by informing the truth that this is going to happen all over, not only the company, Kuwait, region, and the global. And if the leaders came across with such messages, that will keep the image of those companies on the head of the people.
Dibawi, what do you think?
Well, I believe, Doctor, this is an exceptional opportunity for the companies to maintain or to increase their image branding toward their customers, as well as the employment branding to their employees by the action that they are taking within this crisis. For example, for those organizations that they are communicating with their staff, sending them like the certain notes about how to take care of themselves, the medical instructions and the preventions letters, all this is very good one. And keeping the staff up to date and have a transparency with the staff, even on the terms of like deduction or laying off or anything, I believe it's a positive impact on the employment branding on the organization to let them share the decision rather than just to give them a decision without being involved in such decision. So I believe it's an exceptional opportunity for this. In terms of customers as well, it's good opportunity for them to maintain a relation with the customer, even if they are not providing their product or service, but with the simple messages about their customer that we will be there and we will support you and this crisis will get over soon. No worry, we will be there. I believe this will increase the branding and image of the companies toward the customer side. And we can see such an examples, especially for the airlines, which is the most badly affected and impacted the industries, that the operation totally stopped. However, they are producing and issuing an awareness video and like encouraging video to their customers that we will be back soon and we will be always supporting you. So if you look to like Jazeera videos, if you work to look Emirates, Etihad Airlines, all these kind of promotional and inspiring videos that will keep the customer engagement with the company and their customers as well.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. I was asking about how do you think companies can still keep their image and their brand in spite of what's all going on right now?
First, I'm sorry, I lost my audio, so I have to go out and come back. They have to fully understand their changing customer needs and the change in job and caliber and all that, the ones we mentioned earlier. And then they have to provide professional services, build flexible business models according to the current situation and market needs. So there is a lot to be learned from this crisis, and the ones who's gonna change and have flexibility in changing fast to accommodate international markets and client need, the one who's gonna survive this situation and gonna be rewarded at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. Actually, we'll take some questions from the panel, if you can see the questions. And one of the questions I think that everyone was asking about is about the salary rates, and will salary rates be affected by this crisis, and to what extent? Mr. Dibawi?
I don't think, Doctor, the salary will be affected because the qualification and the job tasks and everything will be there. However, people, since I mentioned earlier that they're gonna hire from the local market, and by all means they have to pay more salaries than the overseas, since the overseas will be stopped for a while. So the demand will be high, which will increase the salary for the people. So I don't think that the salary will be affected on this situation. However, the things that will be affected, only the right hiring, the wrong hiring. For those companies, they are not seeking a quality, so definitely they will not get a qualitative candidates with the salary that will issue or provide, which is lower than the market rate. And on the return, they're gonna compromise and get lower quality. And unfortunately, those people may be good candidates or qualifications, they won't have the opportunity to get the chances for a good job where they need to compromise by accepting a lower salary from the rate comparing to their qualification, which actually is the normal case before the crisis. A lot of good calibers, they didn't find a suitable opportunity because they didn't find the proper appreciation on the salary. But I don't think this crisis will affect the salary currently for this.
Okay, Mr. Osama, what do you think?
I think it depends on the overall situation, which is the company situation, who's gonna stay out of their staff, who's gonna leave. End of the day, like Mr. Dibawi mentioned, it's demand and supply. And depending on the high demands of the company and if it's gonna be a limited local supply, so they have to even increase the present salary because less people is available, especially on the professional side or the one with high qualification, like in technical jobs. So I see it on the long run for the better on the salary side, and maybe we'll see more better even benefits like education, insurance, such things to compensate for the salary and make the company more of the employee choice, because there'll be a tough competition between the companies to find the best caliber, and they are limited in a country, so everybody is going to offer.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. What do you think?
From my point of view and what I'm facing right now, there is two categories or two kind of candidates, which is high potential and like high caliber and like very technical and very deep knowledge about certain operation. That salary will be as is or maybe higher even sometime. And on the other hand, like the clerical job, the admin job, the basic like the basic needs for the basic skills needed, those can be affected actually, and the salary will be affected and maybe a little bit reduced. Because now, for example, I have been contacted by one of the agencies here in Kuwait, and they provide me a list of candidates with mainly clerical job, technicians, admin job, and they provided that for free, just to support those people, because they run money and they have been for 2 months without payment, without job, and they are asking us in order to, if you have any vacancy, please hire them, and we won't charge you, just to support them. So those people are going to be affected for sure, from my point of view, because some of the employer will take advantage from the current situation and they're going to lower their salary. Not the big organization which has a pay scale and the very structured. No, the kind of medium or small companies will take advantage of that. And I noticed that currently that, okay, you want the job, this kind of amount is available for this job, which is even part-time. So for the high-tech people, no, it's going to be the same or even higher. For the clerical and admin and the routine job, it's going to be affected.
Thank you, Muhammad. Actually, mashallah, we have a lot of questions and almost have passed 1 hour, but let's take like 5-10 minutes more to answer more questions. From our dear colleague Sharif, was asking about the Mosal and whether they would have imposing quotas of nationality after the crisis, or they have some legal aspects that will affect job requirements and so on. So I think, yes, this will have more restrictions from Mosal about the quotas, or again will mix with another question regarding that getting people from other countries, which is like India, which is have more infection rates and so on. So what do you think from a legal point of view from Mosal? They put more restrictions on quotas, and also from bringing from different countries. What do you think, Mr. Osama?
I think definitely we're going to see more restrictions, as everybody noticed now and reads in the social media and local newspapers that there is a lot of extra staff which are not skilled and not qualified, and they paid money to get visas and they work on a daily basis, and now they're creating a lot of problems. And Kuwaitis are saying that we are outnumbered by almost more than triple the population of Kuwaitis by expat. I think we're going to see even on the level of GCC more quotas by percentage for each nationality, which the Emirates and Qatar were following before. And it's going to be a national security thing that so if you are a company and want to get Indians, for example, and apply for 5, they will tell you no, the Indians quota is already exceeded or already to the limit, get Filipino or vice versa. So we're gonna see a lot of that. And on the also we're gonna see a lot of Kuwaitization, where Kuwait is gonna take certain jobs like other GCC country like Saudi, certain jobs like mandoobs, HR managers, you know, this level have to be by Kuwaitis. And we're gonna see more dependence on the locals than the expats. Thank you.
Muhammad Abu Hamar, what do you think?
So yes, we're gonna have like uncertainty. Right now, we don't have certainty about any regulation or any new rules, but as Mr. Osama mentioned, that we are expecting that. We are expecting new different quota, new different regulations, some restriction, but what is it exactly? We don't have a clarity about that. We are seeking to have information, and now the information, as much as we can gather information, that would be beneficial for the company to have overview what's going to happen in the future. So the uncertainty now is like one of the restrictions, but we are expecting something to happen in the future.
Mr. Dibari, what do you think?
Yes, I believe there will be a lot of changes in terms of the nationality mix and overseas hiring due to the huge number of illegal workers that have been discovered in Kuwait right now, and discussing about the human trafficking issue, and we're talking about the nationality mix in Kuwait. We need to do it equally with the Kuwaiti citizens. So there will be a lot of regulation that will be taken in place on the same. In terms of nationalities, as Mr. Osama said, it might reach to have like a certain quota as applied in Qatar and UAE. I believe there will be a revision on the labor law as well. Some of the articles of the labor law will be adjusted in order to comply with a certain situation that we've been through. It could be again some of the changes on the what we call it the indemnity calculation. We all know that the indemnity in Kuwait is all calculated based on all cash components. Maybe it's going to be changed similar to like Qatar, Saudi, and UAE. It's going to be calculated on basic salary only, not including the allowances or bonuses or commission. since a lot of organizations will suffer in terms of providing the indemnities for all their staff due to the huge layoff that will be taking place and all the legal action that will be taken after this crisis ended from the labor courts for all the people that they have been laid off and terminated, and they will ask back about their salaries and their indemnities, which will be a very difficult on the organization in order to provide them the same, especially that these organizations, they have been operating for like 2-3 months or more until this crisis has been ended. So I'm expecting a lot of changes on the law within the Mosul or the labor regulations, the quota by the Ministry of Interior in order to oversee hiring as well.
Thank you, Mr. Dibawi. My last question, because of the time, I'm really sorry we cannot take all the questions. But again, if you have more questions, please send it and we can share with our guests, and inshallah we'll get their reply back to you. So, Mr. Dibawi, our last question regarding the role of HR. How do you see the role of HR in the future? Is it developing and taking a better position, or you think it's shrinking and everyone's working remotely and we don't need really HR people, or they will not have great impact?
Well, the HR function is not about working remotely or working face-to-face. It's a function in the organization. It's a strategic function in organization, and it's need to be there. Unfortunately, it's not that matured on the Kuwait market, and most of the organizations, they are not considering the HR as a strategic role. But I believe for those HR managers or directors or leaders that they managed to prove themselves during this crisis and to show off how the importance of the HR, I believe their organization will change their point of view about the HR function, and they will be very keen to consider it as a strategic role in the future. For those companies that they didn't get the chance to prove the strategic role of the HR, I believe they need to work on it right now and to start discussing a strategy with their business owners in order to prove themselves and to prove the importance of the HR role.
Mr. Osama, what do you think?
I agree with what Mr. Dibawi said. Unfortunately, the HR was more of a personnel in Kuwait, where mainly the hiring, firing, and do visas and issue memos for vacation and all of that. While the international HR has moved higher than that into the HR partner, and the HR director always have even a board chair and the board of director, because they need to know the strategy, where the company is heading, and they need to know what's the expansion, and if they're going to open in new areas or new branches, they need to staff it ahead of time. So it's going to be a real challenge for the HR personnel. They have to upgrade themselves. They have to take HR professional certificates, training, and they have to be very IT literate and learn how to do things in remote sessions, and also they have to know how to use artificial intelligence, robots, and RBA systems, which is going to be a challenge for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osama. Mr. Abu Hamar?
So, as an HR partnership and business partnership is taking place right now, and what I'm seeing the trend now is how to have the HR involved in the partnership with the business, getting involved in the decision more. For the clerical job or the personnel job, like hiring or payroll or all the administrative work, it can be outsourced soon. And what I'm seeing that a lot of companies is gonna come with the solution, like outsourcing solution, in order to let the people or the HR people being as an HR business partner. So as an HR business partner, you need to be aware about the strategy or the organization and being or enhance and develop yourself in order to co-op with what's the business vision and how you can speak their language mainly. So being a business partner is the critical things to do now, and every HR practitioner need to have this mindset in order to have a role in the future. Rather than that, the personnel part is going to be either outsourced or very eliminated to one person or two person maximum in each organization.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Actually, final note from my side. Actually, I had a nice discussion like maybe 3 months ago before all this happening with one of the companies that they already have the HR function as admin and personnel only. And the GM there, he wants to outsource the performance management and development and so on. So I was telling him, when you outsource this part, the admin and personnel role, not the other functions, because this is the core of the business. And I think this is a great opportunity for all HR people that they can take and play a strategic role, because now it's people issues. All what's going on, it's about people. It's not about anything else. So if you really have good people in place and you can really manage the resources and the good selection and management, engagement, everything, you will be winning in this time and after the crisis. Okay, so I think yes, it's a very good opportunity for the HR people. I hope so, inshallah. So I think there is a lot of lessons learned, a lot of things to be discussed. Actually, I'd like to thank Mr. Osama, Mr. Dibawi, and Mr. Muhammad for their presence today, and thank all the people who attended with us. I know it's Ramadan, it's not easy, but it's really a great pleasure to have you all. And there is a lot of discussions, a lot of questions, but inshallah, maybe we can have another session regarding this, inshallah. So thank you so much for this, and hopefully, inshallah, we'll pass this crisis soon and get over it. And inshallah, blessings of Ramadan will be with us, inshallah, and everything will end soon and we'll have a happy end. Thank you so much, and looking forward, inshallah, to meet you in person again, okay, after all this happened. Thank you so much. Ramadan Kareem. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.